Hi, my name is Atomicus and I'm here to help you get into competitive TF2. If you missed the previous episode, I highly recommend checking it out before watching this one. In this episode, we will cover several ways for you to practice your deathmatch, game sense, and map awareness. Obviously, the most efficient way to practice is to consistently play the game, however, trying to improve specific traits that suits your role is a bonus. We're going to start off by talking about public servers. Although you might not find the most skillful players on a Valve server or a community server, pubs will help you gain overall awareness the more you play, for the simple reason that pubs have something that competitive formats don't, which is a ton of players on a server with no class limits. This will help you develop certain habits that will help you a lot once you start playing competitively. As an example, if you're starting off as the heavy, you will probably encounter 3 to 5 spies on the enemy team, and this will eventually make you get into the habit of checking your back every 10 seconds or so, which will help you a great deal in an actual match. The same applies for the sniper, MG, and medic specifically, but also in general for all the classes. Playing scout on a pub will usually help you develop your dodging abilities to a much greater degree, since there is way more spam around the map that can kill you easily, not to mention a lot of sentries. As a spy, your ability to observe enemy players and their positions will also gain an upgrade, as you'll have to pay attention to more players than what you would usually have in a real match. In the end, you will improve your awareness overall with every class, since you have to take in consideration double the amount of players and not having class limits. Even though this might not improve your deathmatch that much, it is certainly a good way to start practicing your game sense before getting into a competitive match. The next part is for soldiers and demo man, and it's about practicing rocket or sticky jumping. The community has made a bunch of maps designed specifically just for jumping, which is why they're called jump maps. Before we continue, I have to make it clear that some jump maps have unnecessary complicated jumps that you will probably never encounter on a competitive map, therefore you should not worry about those. The main things that you should learn are things such as regular jumps, wall jumping, skip jumps, and pogo jumps. Once you learn the basics, you will be able to combine all the elements and use them to your advantage on a competitive map when needed. You can find jump maps just by searching in the server browser. A good map that you can start off with is jump_competitive_b2, as this is a map that includes key areas for some competitive maps. I recommend playing the maps locally, so in case you get stuck at a jump, you can skim to the next one by using noclip. Now that you know what to use for game sense and jumping, we need something for your deathmatch, and that's what we call MGE. MGE is a competitive training mod which puts 2 players into a small version of competitive maps, such as the Spire on Badlands and Midpoints. Players spawn with a buff and fight until one player reaches a set number of kills, usually 20. When an enemy is killed, the health and ammo of both players are restored. The mod itself allows for any map to be used, so long as there are spawn locations for it, though a popular MGE training map is usually used. MGE is popular for scout and soldier training, although all 9 classes can use the maps, except for a few which are class set. Now the next part is very important, and I want you to pay attention as much as possible. Before heading into an MGE server, you need to understand that you will encounter 2 types of players. Players that will wish to practice and improve themselves, and players that play MGE as a whole game. These type of players will only play MGE most of the time and will do everything they can to win. In my opinion, MGE is best to use as a practice form in order for you to improve certain aspects about your deathmatch or warm up, therefore it will be best for you to ignore this type of players. Ideally, the best way to practice is to have a friend with you and make up house rules so both of you can practice certain things, or hopefully you will meet random players that will use these house rules by default. As an example, a general house rule is that both players will take turns to rocket jump to their opponent, giving them a way to practice airshotting. Another example is trying to practice shooting upwards from the low ground in order for you to practice direct hits. It is up to you to be careful with what players you will play against, as some of them might be toxic and won't be able to help you practice at all. Another important aspect about MGE is that you might start getting bad habits out of it, which is not ideal. Due to the fact that you're repeating the same action over and over again, you will develop certain muscle memory, and that can backfire in real matches, as MGE is not a proper representation of actual competitive matches. With that in mind, you should be careful how often you use MGE as practice. Another game mode that can help you practice, specifically for 6 vs 6, is something called Ultiduo. Ultiduo is a competitive format consisting of 2 players on each team, a soldier and a medic. This game mode is played on small King of the Hill maps that are specifically made for it. Ultiduo is often played by the 6 vs 6 combo, containing the medic and pocket soldier to build up synergy between each other. It's a little bit harder to get into this game mode, mostly because it's not as popular as the other formats. However, if you own a private server and have 4 players, you can easily set this up on your server. You can also join public lobbies whenever they are available, but we'll cover this in the next topic. Once you gain some experience from pubbing, jump maps, MGE or Ultiduo, you can start getting a taste of the competitive format. For this, the community uses a third-party website called TF2 Center. This is what the community uses as a gateway towards competitive formats, also known as competitive pubs. The website is pretty easy and straightforward to use, so you shouldn't have any problems with it. As I mentioned in the previous episode, you might need Mumble for some lobbies that require that. TF2 Center has its own tutorial that you can use to learn how to start on their website, so you should check that out first. Moving on, you should make sure that you have a filter on for your region so you don't accidentally join the wrong lobbies for you. Something very important about TF2 Center is that there's no proper ranking for this, so there's a big balance problem for most matches. When it comes to this, it is your responsibility as a player or leader to make sure that you can join a lobby or create one where both teams are as balanced as possible. For this we can use a couple of factors. Each player has some stats that could describe their experience overall. Things such as total game hours and the total amount of lobbies that someone has played so far. Total game time is definitely not a proper way to judge someone's skill level, however, you can expect a decent gap between someone with 100 hours and someone with 2000 hours. The next thing that you need to understand is that this is not a perfect environment for competitive play, however, it is very easy to access and get a taste of the competitive formats. Most of the time, the whitelists are outdated or not even present since most lobbies are made with random private servers, so sometimes you will meet players that use weapons that are usually banned in a real competitive league. Sometimes some lobbies might take a long time to start due to certain classes not being played often. Do not expect a lot of cooperation in most cases, as most of the time it will be chaotic with players not knowing what to do in certain situations. Because of this, you should use these lobbies as a means to practice individually together with a little bit of teamwork once in a while if possible. In this case, some classes are going to have a harder time due to their dependency on teamwork to function properly. Classes such as Heavy, Demo, Medic and MG will probably have a harder time to improve in these lobbies because of that. The most important thing for you as a player in the end is to not rage quit and ruin the experience for your teammates, and if things get toxic, ignore this type of players and try to find ways for you to improve in any situation. Once you get several lobbies and more experience under your belt, you can try out some competitive mixes. Competitive mixes are similar to lobbies, however, they usually have more experienced players in them and Mumble is mandatory. I will provide links to all of the mentioned websites and groups in the description. First off, we have TF2Pickup.net for both 6 vs 6 and Highlander in Europe. The website is pretty easy to use and similar to TF2 Center, so you shouldn't have any problems there. Next up we have a Steam group called 9v9 Colony, which is for Highlander in Europe. For 6 vs 6 in North America, we've got TF2Pog.me, which is also a website. Do not join these mixes without any prior experience from lobbies, as you'll ruin the enjoyment for other players and yourself. Remember, try to improve as much as possible and be nice to the people that you're playing with. Stay away from the toxic players and enjoy yourself. With that being said, this brings us to the end of this episode where I've covered several ways for you to practice overall. In the next episode, I will cover the current competitive leagues and how you can start looking for a team. You can find links in the description if you wish to contact me, and you should subscribe to get notified when the next episode will get released. If you have any questions, do post them in the comment section or in my Steam group. I also have a Twitch channel where I try to stream every day. You can find me at twitch.tv/Atomicus if you wish to come hang out or if you want to learn more specific things. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.